What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is the Behind the Glass crew. Mike Lucas, McNuggets, Earl the Pearl, Earl Maldine, and Anthony Cantaspelli, a.k.a. Anthony Antonelli. The Behind the Glass crew joining you guys on a Monday night with a little breaking news. In the last, I would say, 20 minutes or so, Tommy Rees has been hired by the Cleveland Browns to be their new tight ends coach and be part of the offensive passing game coordinator position. Chad O'Shea is currently their passing game coordinator, but Tommy Rees will be part of those discussions along with Kevin Stefanski and everybody else on staff. And I know you're not a huge college football guy, so I'll start with Earl. But Earl, what do you know about Tommy Rees? What can you say about Tommy Rees? And does this move excite you at all?
Don't really know too much about him. Was really just doing some quick research over the last 5 minutes. Seeing dude spent 6 years at Notre Dame as the QB coach, was the offensive coordinator there for 3 seasons as well. Do know that he was highly thought of by Nick Saban. I do know that he is a name that is, high in the ranks, considered, one of the next big things. So it'll be interesting to see, what he can bring to the table. Will he fully take over the pass game coordinating duties? But looks like right now, the Browns got a tight ends coach to replace T.C. McCartney. So, that's one vacancy that's filled. We do know that Deuce Staley is still out there waiting on the offer. But it'll be interesting to see what Tommy Rees brings to in addition to whoever the offensive coordinator is, and see how everybody can mesh together with Kevin Stefanski and see how we can get more out of this entire Cleveland Browns offense.
Yeah, a little background on Tommy Rees, and then I'll get your thoughts. But Tommy played at Notre Dame from 2010 to 2013. He had a pretty solid college career. Never really made it in the pros. He played 1 year in the NFL for Washington, but then washed out and decided to become a coach. He spent 1 year on the Chargers as an offensive analyst. He spent 7 years with Notre Dame as just their quarterbacks coach. Then he inherited the offensive coordinator duties. And then he was handpicked by Nick Saban to be their offensive coordinator in 2023. He has play calling duty experience. He called plays for Notre Dame in 2022. He called plays for Alabama in 2023. Andrew Berry said today at his end of season presser that it's not a surefire guarantee that Kevin Stefanski will call plays next season. That's up to the coaching staff to decide on who is their best play caller, but they bring in a guy in their tight end coaching position in Tommy Rees now from the collegiate ranks who does have play calling experience. And it's kind of funny because I tweeted this out and I actually worded the tweet horribly wrong, and my bad. I was just simply pointing out the fact they're bringing someone in who had college experience calling plays before, even if it's on the collegiate level. And people from Alabama and people from Notre Dame both hopped in the comments and were like, we hated this dude. This dude sucked at calling plays. So probably not the guy who will call plays next season, but we do know Tommy Rees is a highly thought of, highly regarded, I'll give him the tab, rising star in the coaching ranks. He's 31 years old. He was playing less than a decade ago, and he was handpicked. And I think this is important to note. He was handpicked by Nick Saban to be his offensive coordinator this season when Bill O'Brien left to join the New England Patriots. And Nick Saban, for whatever you want to say, the GOAT, maybe not, whatever, obviously knows a thing or two about college football. And he had his choice of offensive coordinators. He went out and hired a guy in Tommy Rees who was coming off his most successful season calling plays in Notre Dame. Goes to Alabama. They make the college football playoff. But Tommy Rees, a guy who at least brings a new philosophy and mindset into the coach's room for the Cleveland Browns. And it'll be interesting to see how he meshes with Kevin Stefanski and the rest of the guys because he's 31. He brings a new perspective. Or we always talk about the old head of media versus the new heads. This is certainly a new modern-day approach to offensive football that the Browns may not have had in their repertoire previously.
Yeah, so I'm looking at Alabama's offense from last year. They averaged 33.9 points a game. Just kind of like trying to catch up on this dude. Net passing yards a game, 220, 172 rushing yards a game. So as you were talking, I was trying to go back in my head and think, how solid was Alabama's offense last year. There is something to credit him being handpicked by Nick Saban. Nick Saban is, the best college football coach ever, if you ask me. But I guess I would be more excited about it if he had been with Saban a little longer, and I knew that he was there with Tua, and I knew he was there with Jalen Hurts and things like that. So, I mean, at the end of the day, he's a tight ends coach for the Cleveland Browns that I don't know much about. In the coming hours, in the next 12 to 24 hours, I damn sure be doing my research to find out more about him. But from all accounts, from a lot of people who know more about him than I do, it sounds like as long as my man is not calling plays, he'll be all right. And I don't know if you heard when Mike started to talk. I thought he was about to say Call of Duty.
No, I missed that one.
What do you mean?
Yeah,
Earl's got Call of Duty on the brain.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I don't know. I see someone in the comments say, is Tommy the one who called the QB sneak from the 4th and goal on the 10-yard line against Michigan? That was a Tommy Rees play call. So I'm telling you, there are people already on Twitter laughing at the fact that if he is the one to call plays for the Browns, he does not have the most popular track record.
I don't think people really think that, though, right? A tight ends coach.
I was going to say, this is a dumb question, but does a tight ends coach, has they ever, wouldn't he be the OC?
Probably.
Then?
It's definitely not common, though. Definitely not common.
No,
but I do think it is.
I can see if you.
I do think it's interesting, Earl, though, that, and once again, you guys know me. I think Stefanski does a really good job calling plays. If it was up to me, there's a 0.0% chance anyone but Kevin Stefanski would call plays for the Cleveland Browns in 2024. I do think it is interesting, though, and probably just a timing thing, that this morning Andrew Berry says, we're not sure who's going to call plays next year. We'll make a collective decision on that. And then they go hire a guy who has 2 years minimum, at least, of calling plays on the collegiate level. So I'm just saying the timing is a little weird, but I don't think Tommy Rees will be the play caller for the Cleveland Browns next season.
Did you happen to catch the barbershop Saturday?
I did not catch the barbershop Saturday, unfortunately.
So I went ahead and put my stamp on what I believe.
Shoot.
And, I threw it out there. I could be all the way wrong. I don't think Kevin Stefanski is going to be the play caller for the Cleveland Browns at all next season.
I don't think so. I tell you, I would. I
say that Saturday.
I don't think it's going to be. Yeah.
Like I know people might not like that take or whatever the case may be, but I'm willing to stand on that. And if I'm wrong come September. But I said this Saturday, I just felt like, once the moves that was made on offense, I felt like you only make those type of moves if drastic change is coming, right? And drastic change will be getting, a brilliant offensive mind and then allowing that person to be your play caller. And then you, Kevin Stefanski, focus on the overall team and to be honest with you, I'm not saying that the situations is totally parallel, but I've seen this situation in Cleveland before where a head coach was going into the final year of his contract and, things were shaky and, a decision was made to where, you need to bring in somebody else to call these plays, run the offense, and you focus on the overall team. So that didn't work out too well. Not sure how this will work out, but if I had to put my money on it, the way I read the situation, I don't think Kevin Stefanski is the play caller for the Cleveland Browns going forward.
No, I don't think you fire Van Pelt and make him the problem of the offense when he's not calling the plays anyways, right? You fire him to bring in somebody who can take it away from Stefanski. It just makes sense that way. I agree with you, Earl.
Yeah, I mean, from some of the little birdies we've heard, it seems like that is definitely the trending. The direction this is trending. Whether or not it's the right move, we'll find out. I think depends on who they bring in as the offensive coordinator and potential play caller. But as of today, Kevin Stefanski still the most qualified guy in the room to call plays, but he has someone else alongside him with a little bit of experience. I don't know the answer to this next question I'm going to ask. So let me preface it with that. And Earl, I'm not sure if you know, and maybe you know, it's probably a question best off for G. Bush and Tyvis tomorrow. But going through Tommy Rees's coaching history, he's never been a tight ends coach before. He's either a quarterback coach, which he played quarterback in college and the pros, or an offensive coordinator. He's being brought here to be the tight ends coach. Do you think that – I don't even know if the question, does that matter, is the right way to phrase it, but it's not something he has experience with prior. So how do you look at the hiring a guy for a position that he's never played and or coached before?
Well, I mean, if you're going to hire a guy to coach a position he's never coached before, first thing that tells me is, people believe that he's intelligent, a fast study, and a quick learner. But I think with him being a former quarterback, a former quarterback's coach, and a former offensive coordinator, the fact that he played the quarterback position, and, this is just me, in my opinion, I think that a quarterback has a pretty good grasp on what everybody does, right? I think he's the captain, he's the pilot. He's the one that's flying that ship. And so he understands like what every position on the offense needs to do to a certain degree. I'm pretty sure the quarterback is in the meeting rooms, a lot, and then when you're the offensive coordinator, you're meeting with your position coaches all the time as well. And so I don't think he's coming into this situation totally green on what it is to be a good tight ends coach. I think the fact that he has so much knowledge and experience coaching and playing in different, situations on the offensive side of the ball, I think that'll help him. And then not only that, man, you do got smart people in this room, right? You still got Bill Callahan there. Kevin Stefanski is a smart guy, so the learning curve won't be that steep. And you've been with Nick Saban for a long time, who comes from the Bill Belichick tree. So if you just put all those variables into it, for him to be this young, getting this opportunity, it says a lot about his character, him as a person. And I'm willing to give it a shot. I know if it was me, I would want somebody to give me the shot. So,
yeah, no, I agree. If you're a quarterback, I feel like you have a good idea of everything that goes around. So bringing him in as a tight ends coach doesn't sound, I guess, I don't think it would matter. Like, he should know what a tight end needs to do because he had to know how to work with them in his role as not only a quarterback, but as an offensive coordinator. He's seen the big picture. I think narrowing it back down isn't going to be impossible. So I don't know. I would imagine he'd be fine. I don't think it matters at all.
I don't know if it doesn't matter at all, but I'm with Earl. You're 31 years old. At 30, you were handpicked by Nick Saban. At 29, you were handpicked by Marcus Freeman, who I think is a really good coach. And at 31, you're essentially being handpicked by Kevin Stefanski to be a part of an offensive staff. And, I go back and I look at I tried to do real quick while you were talking, some other mental research on guys who have taken positions they weren't accustomed to. Like Kevin Stefanski was never a head coach before. He's about to win Coach of the Year for the second time in 4 years. So as a quarterback, I have a less hesitation in thinking you could adapt to other positions than a tight end would becoming a quarterback's coach. You know what I mean? Like a point guard, right, a quarterback, a catcher kind of knows what everyone else in the field is supposed to do at all times. Not necessarily other way around. A tight end would have a harder time being a quarterback's coach. And I think, Earl, what you said is the perfect encapsulation of it. He's 31 years old. Whether you liked his play calling or not in college, I didn't watch enough Bama or Notre Dame to tell you I agree or disagree. Mm-hmm. All I know is there are this many really smart football people who have circled you and been like, you know what you're doing. I want you on my staff. I want you to be part of what we're building because I see the potential in you. Whether he comes in as a quarterback coach, a tight ends coach, there are situations where the offensive coordinator is a running back coach or something else. He's like, AVP was OC/quarterback coach. It's not crazy, and they didn't name him this, but it wouldn't be crazy to see a tight end/OC. Like, that's not the craziest thing you ever heard. It's not the case here. It's not happening. It's not happening. I'm just saying it's not the craziest thing. But you hear enough people talk about a guy, and you can kind of judge someone by the company they keep around him, and not on a personal level, but on a football level. The company Tommy Rees has had in his short coaching career is pretty damn elite. So I have very little concern that a quarterback going over into a tight end room or whatever can't help and at least give David Njoku and those guys a different perspective. Maybe he could kind of share with them what a quarterback's looking for in a certain read to help him get an extra step of separation or help him present himself to the quarterback in a way that looks more open that maybe a traditional tight end coach couldn't have. So I think it's a good hire, and he's got a ton of potential. So
I think I don't know too much about Chad O'Shea. I know he has like an old school coaching style. The one thing about O'Shea that I do know is he's big on wide receivers blocking.
Yeah,
that's literally the most I know about him, right? But outside of that, I think if you can pair him with a young offensive mind like Reese to try to kind of get this pass game, developed in a much better way than what you saw last year, then maybe he can help there as well. I find it hard to believe that somebody who has spent this much time on that side of the ball and that young, I think it's a benefit, right? I think that you have to have this mesh between old school and new school. And we have a head coach that runs an old school system, right? The Gary Kubiak system is some throwback stuff. That's like late 80s or early 90s. That's where that was born, right? But you got a guy like Reese that's coming in here. He's 31, and he's from a different era of football, different era of offensive football to be exact. And so I think that when you pair him, if you compare him with a guy like Chad O'Shea, maybe them two can bounce some ideas off each other and try to see if they can just help each other get this pass game coordinated a little better than what we've seen. Because I think all three of us can agree, like, we were largely disappointed in the output that came from everybody not named David Njoku or Amari Cooper. So
yeah, that's totally well said. And One other thing with this staff and coming together, like at the end of the day, and I try to keep this in mind with any coaching decision. None of us know exactly the breakdown of responsibilities between Stefanski, the OC, and position coaches. So we could all speculate on how much input we think AVP had in the game plan, or TC McCartney, or Stump Mitchell, or whoever they hired to replace them. The reality is it may be a total collaborative effort. It may be Stefanski overruling. Like, we don't know how that all works, right? We can only speculate and guess. I like to believe, and once again, this is a guess. This is not, I'm just purely guessing here. I like to believe Stefanski's smart enough to get input from all the other guys he surrounded himself on the staff with, from Bill Callahan to it was Stump Mitchell, whoever the running backs coach is, from his offensive coordinator, from his quarterbacks coach, the wide receiver, all the above, to formulate what they feel like is the best offensive game plan to attack their opponent that week. And now you bring in a guy from Tommy Rees, who at nothing else, at minimum, brings a fresh set of eyes to a quarterback, is coming off coaching Jalen Milroe, who started off the season on Struggle City. Remember, he got benched against South Florida, came back and was looking like a Heisman candidate towards the end of the season, who's a dual threat quarterback along the same lines as Deshaun Watson, and brings potentially some college offensive philosophies that you see get sprinkled into the NFL each and every year, and find out what works and what doesn't. So if nothing else, it's not a reset button, but it's there's a nice young energy to help us collaborate on whatever the best way to attack our opponent is that week. So I obviously we don't know what he'll do, how he'll fit, but at least on paper, I see no downside to bringing in a guy who has tremendous coaching potential, like future NFL head coach potential, as a position coach at 31.
No, I don't see no downside to it either. I mean, it's an unknown hire, right? Yeah. It's an unknown hire. Right. So, now we move to the running backs coach, we move to the offensive coordinator. We spent some time on both. One thing that I just thought about as I kind of try to pivot to the running back situation real quick. We still got Bill Musgrave in our house, right? Yeah. Right. And I know when we hired him last year, he was big on, run game coordinating and, helping Nick Chubb and the rest of these backs learn how to pretty much, utilize their skill set from the shotgun position. And so, he was not a guy that was let go. It'd be interesting to see if Deuce Staley take this job or not. If he does not, I don't think if he doesn't, I don't think the Browns have, scheduled any interviews with anybody else. Is that a position that, Musgrave can just take over altogether and, just wear both hats in that realm? It's funny because, we move into the offensive coordinator situation and we all agree that, whoever comes in here, like I said, this is how I feel. Kevin Stefanski ain't calling plays. So whoever this person is that's going to come in and be the offensive coordinator, how can he mesh with the Reese and how can he mesh with the other guys that's here? It's weird, man, to see the pecking order of how they're going about certain things, especially with me personally feeling the way that I feel. But this whole collaborative effort stuff, I think it's levels to it, Mike. Like what you said, I totally agree. You know what I'm saying? Like having input for everybody on the offensive staff. But I think that's where it should start and where it should finish. You know what I mean? Let the football stuff on the field be the football stuff on the field. Let the stuff in the front office be the stuff in the front office. And then let the stuff ownership need to handle be the stuff ownership needs to handle. And, when I hear things like collaborative effort, it makes me lose confidence in exactly how much say does Kevin Stefanski have in the end. I definitely believe he has a lot of input into everything that goes on. But when it's time for a final decision on certain things like this, how much say do you have in that? And, if I am a person that believes that the next year the offense is going to look different and Kevin Stefanski won't be the person that's calling the plays, then why in the world would you hire position coaches before you hire an offensive coordinator? Shouldn't the offensive coordinator be responsible, or shouldn't you all collaborate on hiring and replacing the position coaches that was let go? So it still leaves some things to be, to me, it leaves more questions to be asked.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to put this question up, and I'll let you answer. But this from Connor Byer says, does anyone think it's weird they're hiring the position coaches before the offensive coordinator? Do you think there's any what's the word Connor used? Any weirdness to that? Any weirdness to that?
Yeah, I think a little bit, but also I don't know if they would care, right? Like if you're an offensive coordinator, I know you want to bring in your own people, but that's not a little bit different, I think, than bringing in a head coach who brings in all of his own people. Like if you take this coordinator job, you know you're going to be working under Kevin Stefanski alongside of Jim Schwartz. You might just have to deal with what's already there. They didn't get rid of our wide receiver coach, so you don't get a say in that either.
Yeah.
So bringing in the little position coaches might not make a big difference. I wouldn't be, like I said, I wouldn't be mad if Kevin Stefanski kept the play calling, and this is what this means, but I don't think he's going to either.
Yeah, I'm with Dan. At the end of the day, it's Kevin Stefanski's staff. And even if, for whatever reason, Stefanski's a CEO coach next season and Schwartz runs the defense and whoever they hired to run the offense is there to run the offense, at the end of the day, Stefanski's still the boss. So whoever he puts in charge of being offensive coordinator, if that's the route they go and he has to work with what's there, Stefanski's still the top of the food chain in terms of the coaching staff. So as long as
I'll be honest with you guys.
I think he has the right to hire his own guys. And then if he wants to hand it off to somebody, whoever he hands off will be the person he chooses. At least you would like that to be the case. Hand off to who he chooses can best run the offense he thinks best fits this team.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep it 100 with y'all. Like, if this is the direction that things are about to go, I personally think this is the best direction for the Browns. We've had a lot of conversations in private and, talked about it some on Behind the Glass and some on UCSS. I'm a person that feels like if Kevin Stefanski was to find the right offensive coordinator, he kind of delegate 90% of that duty to that person and just be the CEO head coach, then I think that's better for the Cleveland Browns. Some people might not believe that, but I think some people might feel like his best trait is play calling. I think his best trait is that he's a leader of men. And I think his second best quality is that he's very organized. I will put play calling third. So I think that when it comes to the priority level, Kevin Stefanski has the first two most important priorities intact on what it takes to be a good head coach. And I think that if you can relinquish the play calling, if you get the right person in there, then I think that kind of gives you time to hone in on those top two skills and become better at that position, at that. And just making this overall team run like a well-oiled machine. I don't think it's necessarily the worst thing in the world that you get somebody in here that's a bright offensive mind. Kevin Stefanski delegate this thing, and then he still oversees this entire football team. The reason why I say that is, Kevin Stefanski kind of put it out there himself, right? Last year he was on King Carmen and Anthony Lima, and he said for him that by the time he gets to Sunday, he's exhausted. And play calling is exhausting. He says that he has the most fun and the most exciting part about his job is collaborating with his staff and working on an install throughout the week and then getting out the way on Sundays. And if this is what you said a year ago, and then we've just went through this past season, if that's truly how you really feel, then this is an opportunity for you to kind of step into a new light and do some things differently. So I don't think it's the worst thing in the world if the Browns choose to go in this type of direction.
I mean, everything you say makes total sense, and I'm not even disagreeing. I just think it matters who the hire is. Because if they hire someone who can maximize the strengths of all 11 guys on offense and the backups, then yeah, it makes a lot more sense. If they hire the wrong choice, then it's catastrophe. And that's a question, I guess, we can't really answer until we know who that hire is. We've seen time and time again throughout football. It happened this year a couple times. Coaches give up play calling, and it works great. And we've seen coaches give up play calling, and then they're the first ones to go, like Frank Reich, because that's what they do. You're not doing that. Well, why are you here? And, I don't know the answer. Stefanski will never tell us the truth of how much time he dedicates towards play calling versus game planning versus getting everyone else ready. How much of an extra burden is it? But I always think about this when it comes to play calling and coaches. Andy Reid said it once. Because Andy Reid had Eric Bieniemy under his wing for 6 years in Kansas City? Right. And Bieniemy was chomping at the bit. Like, he wanted to call plays. He left because he wanted a chance to be the full play caller. And Andy, who might be the greatest offensive play caller of all time, at least in the conversation, right? Can we all agree is one of the best? Was like,
yeah,
Eric, you might be great, but you're not better than me. Like, we're worse if you call plays because that means I'm not. And I always think about in the situation like Michael Jordan in basketball. He passed to Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr hit the shot in the finals, wins the finals. But for most of his career, MJ was taking that damn shot because in his mind, a bad, even double teamed MJ shot was better than any other option they had on offense. That's how some of these play callers feel. And if Stefanski feels that there's no one who can run my offense and call plays better than I can, in my opinion, I just can't blame him for not wanting to give up that responsibility. But to Earl's point, sometimes it is for the better of the entire team. I just get why it could be a difficult decision to make. I see both sides, but I think it all comes down to who they hire as the OC. Because
let me ask y'all this: is Kevin Stefanski closer to Eric Bieniemy as a play caller or Andy Reid as a play caller, in your opinion?
Are you saying like the greatest of all time, or a guy who called plays for 1 year on a bad offense this year?
Like, because basically, yeah, I guess that's what I'm saying.
I think Stefanski the top 10 play caller in the NFL.
Top 10?
Top 10.
Lower, like you think he had top 10? Yeah. How where do you think he ranked right now?
I mean, I'd probably say at least top 15. I didn't watch a lot of Washington this year, so I don't know off the top of my head, but
are they both top 15?
I didn't love what I saw from Washington this year. So if this is the 1 year,
did you overly love what you saw from the Browns this year?
Yeah. I thought they did a really good job with limited weapons and maximizing Joe Flacco. And
I guess the point I'm making is I think Eric Bieniemy is a pretty good offensive mind. I'm not sure if Eric Bieniemy on his own, running the offense on his own, like is necessarily, the right thing to do. I can see him as the play caller as long as he's paired with the right offensive coach. I think that going to Washington, he did himself a disadvantage because you pair with Ron Rivera, and Ron Rivera really don't know like that much about the offensive side of the ball.
Nope.
And I think part of what made Eric Bieniemy look great was being next to Andy Reid. Now the same thing is in reverse. Part of what made Andy Reid look great was having Eric Bieniemy next to him. And so maybe if you hire a dude like that, he can look a little better in Cleveland as the play caller because you do have Kevin Stefanski there. Kevin Stefanski is not Ron Rivera.
Yeah, 100%. And like I said, Bieniemy, it was 1 year. They put up a lot of numbers, but they had a ton of weapons. They gave up a gajillion sacks. I personally, like I said, I just didn't love that. I thought they had more weapons than the Cleveland Browns did, and despite some gaudy numbers, were a pretty terrible football team this year. So it was 1 year, but I like how Stefanski calls the game and manages the game. So it's like until they hire an OC, we could guesstimate who, what, when, where, and why will be the OC, but I don't know.
My last thought on it is without Stefanski, we don't sniff the playoffs this year with everything that happened. That's just, I don't know who you bring in, at least right now, and you guys would probably know better than I would, that could outplay call him, especially the way he did it this year and utilized everything he had.
Yeah.
I think you don't make it without him or Van Pelt, if I'm being totally honest.
I would love to say that. I don't know what Van Pelt really did.
And
that's fair.
I don't know what he really did either, man. But, if Kevin Stefanski don't want to say it's a collaborative effort, then, who knows for real, right? Like, who really knows? And it's just weird because somebody, I can't remember where I heard this, but somebody had alluded to the point that when the Browns made the playoffs in 2020 and Mike Prefer was the interim head coach for that game because Kevin Stefanski had COVID, the Browns offense was fluid that game. You know who was the play caller?
AVP. Didn't they score? What was the final score? They scored like 45, right?
I can't think of it off the top of my head, but I know the offense was moving. The offense was doing their thing.
They moved the ball like crazy against Pittsburgh.
And so if he didn't call the plays, and if Kevin Stefanski says he was that he was that involved in the install and things like that, then I think I can't give Kev all that credit. That's all I'm saying.
No, that's fair too. That's a good example of what AVP really did do.
Yeah, and once again, we're arguing, not even arguing, but we're discussing something that there's not a definitive answer for. How, like I said, we don't know how the week leading up to Sunday goes. We know Stefanski's calling the plays. We don't know if that's 100 plays that AVP created for him that he's picking from. We don't know if that's 100 plays they all sat down and came up with together. So, we'll see who the offensive coordinator hires. We do know Tommy Rees has been brought on to be the tight ends coach this year, replacing TC McCartney. He does have play calling experience, but I think all three of us would be surprised if he ends up being the primary play caller next. It sounds like whoever they bring in from an offensive coordinator position will be the guy. What's up, Earl?
You know what else we know as we talking about these plays, this, that, and the third? our franchise quarterback said, "Get that shit out of here."
Yeah, well, that brings us to our next point, Earl. We have the clip. You want to play the clip real quick?
Yeah, let's
This
play the
was
clip.
from the Lockerverse QB Unplugged podcast, Deshaun, Quincy Avery, and Cam Newton. It's about 45 seconds. This is a clip from their show. Part 2 dropped this morning. This is from part 1.
I'm not sure if your OCs did it, but like the first 15 plays, first 20 plays. Already started. Yeah, you know what that is. So you're trying to play within that. All right, this is where the ball usually go. You go throughout the week. You go throughout the different looks. All right, this, here. I never been a fan of that just because I know the other team's going to adjust quick and I got to adjust because they're not going to play me the same way like the other quarterback. They're not going to play me the same way like Brock Purdy. You feel me? They're not going to play me the same way like a Tua because I can use my legs, I can run, I do a lot more movement in the pocket, things like that. So, like, for me, I think, like, the first half, like, I'm trying to figure it out. And, like, I start off slow. But once that third and fourth quarter come around, now you just calling your best plays. You trying to make it work. And you got to make – your playmakers got to make plays, especially in that fourth quarter.
Earl, you brought this to our attention. I'll let you start.
Man, I think Deshaun Watson was 100% accurate in everything he said. And I think the proof is in the data. When you rock, I'm going to let you rock. You know I ain't a numbers guy. But the first thing I thought about when I first heard this was the second half of the Baltimore Ravens game. And then I started kind of going back throughout the season like, damn, you know what? Deshaun low-key did kind of get better each game as that said game went on. And again, it started making me like wonder some more things. Like, one, like, how many times has he went to Kevin Stefanski and told him this? And what was that conversation like? Because if this thing is about putting Deshaun Watson in the best situation to be successful and the best situation to win, then you're failing your quarterback if he's flat out telling you, I don't like scripted plays. And I get it. Most coaches have a script that they start the game off with, but most coaches don't have quarterbacks with the athletic ability of Deshaun Watson. And so when you got a quarterback who feels like I'm better as a freestyle quarterback, let me just go out here and do my thing, and you supposed to be this guru play caller, then what in the hell do you need a script for to begin with? If you him and Deshaun Watson is presumed to be him, then y'all need to be super him together and just rock out from the start of the game. And I don't think he lying about anything that he said. Again, the proof is in the numbers. Deshaun Watson literally gets better by QBR passer rating, touchdowns as the game goes on, right? And so why put him in a situation to where he's constantly thinking? Mike, and the things that we talk about most is all mental for Deshaun. He got to get over the mental hurdles. And he's flat out telling you in his clip, in a nutshell, I'm thinking too much. You know what I'm saying? Like this is going on. I'm being scatterbrained for no reason at all to where I should just be in a situation to go out here and make some plays and let that be that. And so, you know, I thought that was very telling. And I kind of felt like it's married to whoever the offensive coordinator is, because he publicly went out there and said that. And I feel like Deshaun Watson is a person that got enough respect for the organization that he works for, that this is not the first time that this has been said, right? So if that's the case, then you need to do what you got to do to put him in the best situations to win. And some people can say like, well, this is just him making another excuse or whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, man, he got more clout, he got more power, he got more say in this organization than the head coach, because he's the franchise quarterback, because of how much money he make. And everybody know if this thing goes to shit, he gonna be the last man standing. It is what it is.
So after we heard this clip today, Earl, and you brought it to our attention, I called the 4 NFL players I know. 3 of them answered. And I asked just point blank, does every coach that you've played for, do they script the first couple plays? And all 3 said every coach I ever played for scripts the first 10 to 15 plays of the game. So it sounds like there's a clash between what Watson wants to do and what the norm is across the NFL. And 2 of the 3 guys I talked to haven't played since the 90s. So we're going back almost 4 decades now of how coaches approach a game. I don't know if it's a problem because the Browns have been particularly good on opening drives. Like I mentioned in the show, they had the 3rd most opening drive touchdowns this season. With Joe Flacco, they scored a touchdown on their opening drive in 4 of his 5 regular season starts. Last year, they were one of the most efficient first drive and first quarter offenses in football. But the numbers back up what I was saying. Deshaun Watson, based on every statistic you look at, starts worse in the first quarter, gets better in the second, better in the third, better in the fourth. That's not sustainable to winning football games if you're essentially putting yourself in a hole. And I'm not saying they do every time, but if you're not playing your best football till the fourth quarter, more likely than not, you're going to be down if your quarterback's not playing his A game, right? That's just kind of a fair assumption. I'm not saying they're always trailing, but it's hard to get big leads if your quarterback struggles at the top. I don't know if it's a Deshaun problem, a Stefanski problem, an overall NFL problem, but I don't think Deshaun Watson has this super unique skill set in today's NFL anymore when we see quarterbacks are all and Deshaun's an elite athlete, but so is 15 to 20 other quarterbacks in football now. And they don't always struggle out the gate in the same way Deshaun has, at least by the numbers. So I don't even know how to feel on this. I feel like it's pick your poison. Like, they've been really good, but Deshaun doesn't want to do it, and Deshaun isn't good in the first quarter. So will Deshaun be better if you let him freestyle, but then you don't have the scripted plays, which Stefanski's been awesome? Like, I don't have an answer, man. You see what I'm saying? Like, I hear what Deshaun's saying. I also will totally get if someone's like, well, they're great in the first quarter, why stop? I don't know. Stefanski's great at the opening drives. Like, I don't know why you'd want it to stop. But if Deshaun doesn't like it and that's your franchise quarterback, you got to kind of do what he would. I don't know. I honestly have no idea. I have no idea.
Go ahead, Ant, because I got something to respond.
No, I mean, I don't think he's making an excuse. I think everybody does definitely have their own playing style. But there's got to be a marrying of these two ideas, right? Like, you're telling me that as an NFL quarterback, you're too good to run 15 scripted plays at the beginning of the game and then adjust from there? Especially if everybody's doing it. I mean, fine, maybe be the trendsetter and let it go. But I don't know. I just see, like, the numbers do prove it, like you said. But since he's been on the Browns, has he really shown that he can just go out there and freestyle and make it all work outside of the Baltimore game? Yeah. And I'm not counting the Cardinals game. The Cardinals game does not count this year for me at all. It was 27-0. It was boring, and the Cardinals sucked this year. He didn't even play against Kyler
you can't
Murray.
do that, though. He still played it.
Yeah, but he didn't even play against Kyler Murray. No, sorry. Like,
I get that, man. But
anyway, like,
come on, man.
That one half, he has not shown me anything that he can just go out there and unscripted and let it loose.
Before you go again, real quick, part of this, the first 15 play script too, is for the OC to get an idea of how the defense will come out in certain formations. If they go three wide receiver personnel, all right, how they get. Now I know how to adjust, and we see what they're doing defensively. I do think there is an advantage to calling some things early so you can make your own adjustments later. But if Deshaun doesn't like it, at the end of the day, Deshaun gets what he wants. It's like, you have to cater to Deshaun, and I'm not even saying I think that's the right idea, but I think you got to. If Deshaun doesn't want plays, I don't think you can script plays.
I mean, that's fair. You do have to go with what he's going to say, but
so for any successful relationship to work, I feel like you have to be able to meet that other person in the middle. And like, I watch a lot of different podcasts. I kind of get like, my study from a lot of different places. And, somebody said like, to get the best out of somebody, you kind of got to meet them where they at, right? And a lot of times, whether it be in football or in real life, we have a tendency to force our way on people. And you have to adapt to every situation, everybody's learning style, what they do best. I do agree that in today's NFL, Deshaun Watson, what he does best is it's not unique anymore. There's a lot of guys that do that. But you know what? He might be unique in his own way as far as he has a lot more mental hurdles than, say, somebody that matches him in athleticism. So if you're somebody that's studying your quarterback, not just his play on the field, but his personality and his learning style and his characteristics, then you got to properly adjust to what works for Deshaun Watson, even if it goes against the status quo of what normally goes on in the NFL. You can still kind of go through your scripted plays for your preparation while you're in practice as you're getting ready for your opponent. But I think there has to be, like Ant said, a marriage, a meeting of the minds there to where, I'm saying, okay, Kev, let me meet you halfway. Deshaun, let me meet you halfway. We don't necessarily have to do what every other team is doing in the NFL. And we don't necessarily have to stay with the traditions of how things has always went. Let's just do what works for us to get the best out of this entire situation. And if we can find a way to do that, then the hell with how it used to look or how it's normally looking and all that other stuff. Just do what's best and put your quarterback in the best situation to have success and what's best for the Cleveland Browns. That's it.
You said pre-show today, Earl, and I thought it was fascinating. This is the first time at least publicly, we've seen kind of Deshaun draw a line in the sand and say something that wasn't 100% in line with the Browns' messaging. And I think it's going to be fascinating to kind of watch play out over the next couple months, and especially with this OC hire, if there is a bit of a power play. And I'm not saying there is. I'm just saying it's something to watch. If there is a power play and power struggle between Watson and Stefanski moving forward. Like, we'll see.
Listen, I hope it don't come down to that because I don't want to lose my head coach, right? I'm just being me personally. I want Kevin Stefanski to be the head coach of the Cleveland Browns for a long time. Like, I think as he continues to mature and develop as a person and as a coach, the best thing I like about him is he's a leader of men and he's a very organized dude, right? As long as you got those qualities and players are playing hard for you, sign me up for Kevin Stefanski year in and year out, especially if you're going to continue to move swiftly to improve your staff in order to make the team better. So I hope it don't come down to a power struggle, because if it do, Kevin Stefanski don't stand a chance.
Loses every time.
And that's just going to be, listen, Andrew Berry don't stand a chance. Kevin Stefanski don't stand a chance. The only person in this organization that I think is more powerful than Deshaun Watson is Paul DePodesta. I'm being totally honest with you. I think it go to Haslam's, Paul DePodesta, Deshaun Watson, Andrew Berry, Kevin Stefanski. I honestly believe that's how it's structured. And if you think differently, you think differently. But everybody else want to talk about his money. I'm going to talk about his money in this sense. Jimmy Haslam paid this man a whole lot of money. And when he look out here and he see a young Justin Fields looking better than his Deshaun Watson, a CJ Stroud, and he feel like he has a quarterback that's just as capable and if not better, and they're not getting the same results here, then guess who's going to be moved on first?
Yeah.
Anybody that's not named Paul DePodesta. That's just the reality.
And if they don't give Stefanski an extension after they hire an OC, do you start worrying? Do you think they're waiting to hire an OC first?
I think the fact that he came into this seat, I just think the fact that we even got to this point without him getting an extension makes me worry, because these things are typically handled before like that regular season wraps up.
Yeah.
So
we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. There's a lot of things to keep our eyes on as we progress through the offseason. We're less than 2 weeks into it. The Browns have hired a tight ends coach. They still have an open offensive coordinator position. They've interviewed three candidates now. They've interviewed a defensive line coach, but they still have a defensive line coach on the roster. They interviewed anyone else? Am I missing? Deuce Staley. They interviewed Deuce Staley for the running back position. So we will see. I do know, Earl, you made it back into the office for the first time in about 2 weeks today, after some taking care of some medical stuff on your own and with your family. And it was great to see you back. We missed you. But I do want to just go over, and a couple of things that you and I have had to endure with Earl out of office. Y'all remember? No, I shouldn't make that joke. I'm gonna pass up on that joke. I'll make another one. Things that have happened since Earl was in and out of office. We've gained 74 Jace medical reads that we all botched. You survived the Jace medical read of 2024.
I missed one word.
Which word?
I don't actually. Is sinusitis? Is that what Director Steve decided it was?
That's what. Yeah.
Other than that, we were good.
What sinusitis?
I have no idea. I didn't even bother Googling.
Who was that?
On the Jace medical read.
I don't know.
Oh,
no idea.
I'm about to say, who is she?
We have 4 presidential elections. Last time Earl had been in the office and the last time he out, we built a Papa Shot. Aunt adopted a kitten that he hasn't caught yet. But mentally, he's adopted a kitten.
Yeah, getting there.
So you got an adopted kid that you can't even find.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
you're off to a great parenting career, my brother.
The cat lives in the garage. That's all I know.
What the?
He keeps his kids in the garage. And Father of the Year 2024.
Man, this sounds like a Lifetime movie waiting to happen, man. I'm telling you.
Hey, sometimes you just gotta make your own scripts.
Yeah. And what else happened in your life? Ant saw like 7 concerts.
That's not true. I've only been to one actually because my eardrum was busted. My eardrum has healed since you've been gone.
There you
I was
go.
at a concert last night. It was good. I don't know what else has happened. Bree's car didn't get stuck in the snow this weekend, so that was nice. Didn't have to
That's a
get
win.
any car
Big win.
stuck out of the snow.
Nice.
Big one.
I
I
don't
think
know,
that's
man.
it.
Nice.
It's been 2 years since I've seen Earl, and I've missed him every day.
Yeah, I kind of walked in the office, looked around for a minute before I sat down. Like, it's been a lot, man. It's been a lot going on in the personal life, but you know, work is where my passion is, but it's also my release. And so it felt good to just kind of be there, healthy enough mentally, spiritually, and actually physically, to kind of be back in studio having some fun. I've been looking for it. I was picking on Bull this morning. I was looking for a debate, anything to just kind of distract you from the
It's
real
coming
world.
tomorrow. Trust me on the
there
show.
was a
Yeah,
streaming
so-
match
coming
this
tomorrow.
morning.
Yeah, so like those are the things that I was looking for, but I definitely missed you all, man. Y'all held it down. The coolest thing though, Friday, because of how the show was structured, I did work from home a couple of the days that I was out, but I had the opportunity to just watch the last half hour of UCSS on Channel 3, and it was definitely an experience, man, to actually kind of be off the clock, watching from that perspective, seeing your name come across the TV screen. And then it was the first time that they actually kind of had the promo for our new Ultimate shows that was coming, and kind of got couple phone
There's a
calls from
promo
people
for
who
that?
was watching.
I didn't know there was a
Yeah.
promo.
I had no
actually.
idea that.
Not a promo, but you did the read.
Oh,
you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
And
yeah,
whoever
yeah.
was watching at the time, they was like, "Man, you got a show coming. You ain't say nothing." And so sometimes I don't purposely say anything just to see who really supporting versus who just saying I'm watching. I can always go back and tell and see if you watched or not. So, but I definitely missed you all, missed being in the studio, and yeah, here I am, man.
I got one comment I want to address real quick. Tempe 1D says, Rising Star. I read the title of this. Rising Star sounds like clickbait. Tommy Rees is 31 years old, has been hand-selected by Nick Saban, Marcus Freeman, and Kevin Stefanski to be part of their offensive staffs. One of the most highly regarded, whether you like what he did at Notre Dame or Bama.
Clickbait, Michael.
One of the most,
clickbait,
highly regarded offensive minds in college football. You can say a lot of things. And yeah, we do a lot of clickbait stuff sometimes. I thought that was pretty generous. A 31-year-old who's now making his way to the NFL after calling plays at 30 at Notre Dame. At Alabama at 29 at Notre Dame. He was on a professional NFL staff at 25. He's been coaching for almost a decade now. He barely turned 31. He started coaching 2 years after he could buy his first beer. Like, y'all call us out on a lot of stuff, and probably rightfully so. There's nothing clickbait about this title whatsoever, my man.
I think, okay, let's say it's rightfully so. Let's address this for a minute, right? Because I honestly don't think people understand what our job description is. Like, some people think we be being too negative. Some people think we trying to like be clickbaity or whatever the case may be. Our job is to be informative and entertain, and kind of try to trigger you emotionally. And so every time y'all kind of come with that type of backlash, I feel like that lets us know we're doing a good job of what we're supposed to be doing. Be informative, trigger you emotionally so you can click on it and see what's going on. And I think some people don't understand, like, there's some certain nuances to it that unless you kind of in this business, you don't know. And I'm saying that because this is my 3rd year in this business. And so I remember sitting there like, man, why y'all always talking about this, that, and the third? But some things is kind of deeper than what you think. Just let us do us.
I'm making tomorrow's show title Adam the Bull Only Fan Leak.
Yeah, like, listen,
how many clicks we get.
I am not innocent in never using clickbait in titles. Trust me. Like I'm as guilty as any, but this one feels pretty innocent in the grand scheme of things.
He's 31 years old and he's risen through the coaching ranks. I don't think calling him a rising star is a reach. Dude is 31 years old and he's a rising star in the coaching ranks. Like, that's respectable.
All right, last question and we'll wrap up. Would you trade Myles Garrett for Marvin Harrison Jr. and another first-round pick? Earl, on the clock.
Mm-mm. No.
Ant, on the clock. Ant's gonna say yes. And it's still wrong. He's gonna say he's still wrong, but it's okay.
That's fair. No, I don't know if I trade him for that specifically, but I do think that it's time to start looking for other options outside of Myles.
And that's why Ant's our music guy, not our Browns
Exactly.
insider. We love you all behind the
That's
glass.
fair.
We appreciate y'all tuning in. And we'll see y'all tomorrow on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. If you want to see Bull get big mad, if y'all want to see get big mad, we missed a super chat.
Did we miss a super chat?
We missed a super chat from Vigilant Hawk.
No, he's saying, why are you ignoring Deshaun's podcast?
Oh. We've talked about it before.
I think so.
I don't ignore his podcast.
Lockerverse app sucks. Like Lockerverse has to figure out how to get their app to work for more than 7 minutes at a time. Like I'll crap all over the Lockerverse app itself, but Deshaun, we talked about when he threw the backwards pass against Tennessee, and he came on and joked about what he was seeing, what he was thinking. We talked about it a couple times.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Real quick, because it's funny. So somebody just said this, right? Deshaun Watson will not bring a championship to Cleveland, Ohio. He does not work hard enough in the offseason. All he does is travel instead of putting in that real
that's just a lie.
work.
That's just a lie.
So
that's just what you see on Instagram. Like
he definitely he made note. I see everything, I hear everything. And some people don't like the fact that he said that or that he feels that way, but that dude is a human. Like, let's be real. I'm a person, I ain't gonna lie. I see everything and I hear everything too. I don't think that's the problem. I just think what you do with it, right? If you can channel that and use it for something good, then kudos to you. Use that as a motivational piece. But if it's something that when you see something or hear something that you so in your feelings or you so frustrated that you become stuck and stagnant, then you need to do a better job of blocking out the noise. But if the noise kind of like motivates you internally in whatever way, and it gives you that extra juice, whatever the case, man, so everybody is built different. I know I'm like that, right? I could still like, and there was a girl that tried to talk to me, and I kind of like, I couldn't do it. I remember like when I was walking home from school in second grade and she was a part of a group of girls and guys that was walking behind me, teasing me, calling me Earl or Girl because my name rhymed with girl. Here we are, it's all these years later. Now you want to holler. Like, no, that chip on my shoulder is still there. So ain't nothing wrong with hearing it and seeing everything sometimes, man. Sometimes that kind of help you kind of put some boundaries around yourself. That's all.
All right. Well, we'll see y'all on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show tomorrow. I promise you, G. Bush and Bull might fight at the end of the show, but it's going to be worth it. And Bull brought this up tomorrow, not me. So when y'all get mad tomorrow, remember this was a Bull idea, not a McNuggets idea. We'll see y'all 11 a.m. tomorrow. For now, for Earl and McNuggets, we'll see y'all. Peace.